Hello and welcome to Micro Business News Network. My name is Kim Richardson, your National Anchor Chair. The Micro Business News Network is a forum for disseminating information about your business. We are your local tool to let your voice be heard at an economic price using cutting-edge technology. Word on the street is you can't afford not to showcase your business on Micro Business News Network. Time is money, so let's get started. Our guest today is Dr. Soundrea Hickman of Eloquently Speaking. Welcome, Dr. Hickman.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you
today.
Glad
to be here.
Thank you. We are honored to have you in Module 2. That's the author's module of Micro Business News Network. Now, please explain to us, what is a presentation skills coach?
Okay, a presentation skills coach helps people who have to speak in front of other people for whatever reason it is. It could be a small group, it could be a large group, it could be co-workers, it could be a board meeting, but they have to stand up in front of an audience and speak. And what I do as a presentation skills coach is teach them how to do that effectively.
I see. Now, can you tell me exactly what type of person would need your services?
Anyone that cannot get through a sentence without umming and ahhing.
Okay.
I say umming and ahhing is not a part of American Standard English.
Okay.
This isn't.
You know what? When we were talking earlier, you described exactly to me, very specifically, what are the demographics of the person that would probably hire you?
Basically, an executive, someone is in an executive position with a company that has to go out and speak for that company. Like I have a client that is a corporation, and they have people within their corporation that go out into the community to talk about that particular company. So they want to make sure that the person going out into the community is presenting their company well.
Right, right.
So that would be a client, a corporate client that I would have, or any individual that is an executive position, business owner, and they need to talk about their business to other people. That would be my clientele.
I see. Now, what made you get involved with this type of business?
Well, I was doing health seminars for health companies, and people kept asking me, how did you learn to speak like that? Would you train me? And so I said, not thinking about it, I just automatically said, okay, yeah, I'll help you speak. And next thing I knew, I was helping a lot of people. So I decided that this must be something I should go into, and this is a new business for me. So I went into the business of teaching people how to present.
I see, I see. Now, speaking according to research, 85% of people that was polled about things that frightened them to death said that public speaking was one of the things that was first on the list. So, what makes your business more special than any other ones?
Well, you're right. 85% of the population fears speaking in front of people more than they fear death. And I always said, I'm looking for that 85%. But then I realized that that was not my clientele. My clientele is the professional person that struggles with a sentence, and their sentence has 3 or 4 ums and ahs in it. And we're not talking about, we're talking about one sentence, and they can't get through that one sentence without umming and ahhing. And if we're professionals, we've got senior this in front of our name, or we've got VP in front of our name, or attorney, or a doctor, whatever, then we should be able to talk fluently without using ums and ahs.
I see, and that is very important. If you had to give someone else who was interested in going into your business some advice, what advice would you give them?
To get a lot of speech training themselves. To go to someone who does speech training, practice a lot, do a lot of presentations themselves. Also learn how to train. Because you could be a really good speaker, but you don't know how to train someone else to speak well. So to not only take up speaking yourself, but also take training seminars as well, so that you learn how to train other people in doing what it is that you're doing.
I see. So what I'm hearing you say, be comfortable within yourself of the fact that you're a good speaker and that you've exposed yourself on how to elongate your vocabulary. But I also hear you saying you better know how to communicate or train other people to do what you do.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Now, Les Brown once said it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than it is to have an opportunity and not be prepared, which leads me to the next question. Can you describe your business, and I want you to highlight on the strengths, your vision for the future, and the service you provide for your customers?
Well, what I basically do is I offer a speech assessment. That is the first tool that I use, because I feel that people come to the table with something, and I want to see what that something is. So the first thing I do is provide a speech assessment, which takes about 1 hour. In that speech assessment, that person has to present to me a 10 to 20-minute speech.
Okay.
And it could be on any topic of their choosing. Some people that come to me have a workshop or a program that they're already speaking on. And if that's the case, I suggest that that's what they present in the assessment. If a person doesn't have a topic that they normally speak on, I ask them to talk about themselves, because the easiest thing to talk about is yourself. And when I'm reviewing that speech, I'm looking at two things. One is speech content. How did they put that speech together? Did it have an opening, a body, conclusion? How was it organized? Because a speech has its own unique qualities of how it is written. It is not written like anything else. Other writing is referred to as prose writing. And what I find that people come to me with a speech and they have it written up in a prose writing format, and that's not how you write a speech. So I'm looking to see if I need to help them reorganize their speech so that it's more receptive to the audience. Then I'm looking at the physical characteristics that they bring to the speech. Do they have eye contact? Are they pacing back and forth as they're speaking? Do they use vocal variety? What are the physical characteristics? How is their body language? Is their body language in sync with their words? Sometimes you could be a pacer and your words are over here and your body's over here, and they have to be brought in sync with each other. Does your words match your body language? So I'm looking at what physical qualities the person brings to the speech. And so after we talk about that and we look at that, then I develop a personal program for that person. And I ask them to commit to at least a 6-week program. That's what I ask the person to commit to, because I don't feel that we can accomplish much in less than 6 weeks. And for most people have different things that we have to work on. It's never the same. So cause I had someone ask me, do you ever get bored? And I said, no, because nobody's ever working on the same thing.
Absolutely.
So there's no room for me to get bored, because everybody is different, so they have something different that they end up working on.
That's interesting. So I hear you saying a specialized 6-week program.
Yes.
Why 6 weeks?
Well, I find that that's a good time span to accomplish something. Less than that, we're not going to accomplish much. Speech is something that has to be practiced. So if I gave a person 1 session, then not much is going to be accomplished, because there's no practice time in there. There's no re-evaluation time in there. And then you're going to forget whatever we talked about. So every time a person comes to me, they're given a lesson. And they must master that lesson in order to move on. If they have not mastered that lesson, they're not going to move on.
I see.
Because I can only give you the lesson. You're the one that has to go home and practice that lesson. So if I give a lesson to someone and I say, well, this is what I need you to work on before our next session, it's up to them to work on that. So when they come back to me, they would have had to master that lesson we were on. If they have not mastered that lesson, we continue on that lesson until they master it.
I see.
Because I want them to gain skills. And the only way to gain skills is to master the lesson that we've talked about.
Right. Now, the bottom line to public speaking is being able to overcome nervousness, because even though I am an interviewer on Micro Business News Network, every time I hear that countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all of a sudden I have to master nervousness. What would be your advice to me as to how to overcome being nervous about public speaking?
Well, the first thing, practice, practice, practice. Practice does not make perfect. It makes you better.
Okay.
So I don't like to hear people say practice makes perfect. It makes better, not perfect. So the more you practice, the more at ease you're going to come. The more you do something, the more at ease you come. And also, you have to expect a little nervousness. You can have a person that goes on the stage every day, and they're still going to feel a sense of nervousness. So that's not a bad thing to feel nervous. I've seen some speakers where they stand outside the stage and they shake their hand. They have a ritual that they've created that shakes off their nervousness.
All that nervousness.
Yes,
right,
they have a little ritual that they go through. So being nervous is not a bad thing. So having some nervousness is like you expect that to be there. But once you get going, you forget about that you were nervous in the first place. So it kind of goes away.
And don't you think that I have to be really prepared with my subject matter as well?
Of course, knowledge has a lot to do with the level of nervousness that you have. The more knowledgeable you are, the less nervous you're going to feel, because you know your information. You know what it is that you're going to be saying. So that helps. If, you know, people say to me all the time, what if I forget what I'm saying? And I explain to them that, first of all, you got to have the knowledge. Second of all, speech has a rhythm to it. And if you learn to put the rhythm to speech like a song, like you could hear a song and you don't even know the words, and the next thing you know, you're singing the words because you picked up the rhythm.
You picked up the pattern.
Speak is the same way. Once you pick up the rhythm, the words will come to you just like that, because you picked up the rhythm of the speech.
Oh, I see.
And speech has that same rhythm to it.
Outstanding. So what you're basically, what I hear you saying is, be prepared, practice, and expect to be nervous.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're saying to me. Now, what I'd like to know from you, Dr. Hickman, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, in 5 years, I plan to be sitting behind my desk, being the president of my company, with 6 trainers that I am training to do what I'm doing. I'm in the process now of writing and editing a book on training a person in speaking skills. So it's written, I'm just going through the editing process now. So I plan to use that book to train at least 6 people on my speaking techniques, because some of the techniques that I have, I've actually created.
I see.
And training them on those techniques and actually having them going out seeing people as opposed to me going out and seeing people. I probably still would take some people on the side because I just love doing it.
Absolutely.
But they will have the bulk of it.
I see. And your long-range goals, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Running my company, also expanding to athletes. I would like, it just gets on my nerves to see an athlete on TV that cannot speak.
Yes.
That just sends me. So hopefully I will be working with professional athletes in terms of their speaking skills and getting them to be more of a role model to young people through their speaking skills.
Now I want to go back basically to the speech writing, because you really piqued my attention when you said about speech writing earlier. You said that now in education we call it outcome-based education, but you say you have a 3-point rule. What did you mean by that?
Well, I have people think in terms of 3 when they're giving a speech, meaning only give 3 points. The reason for that is that we listen much faster than we talk.
Absolutely.
So the more points we give a person in a speech, the more their mind is going to drift to other things. If I give 3 things, I open myself to my mind drifting in 9 other directions. If I give 4 points, my mind's going to drift in 24 other directions. If I give 5 points, my mind actually drifts in 120 other directions. So we want to limit it as small as possible to prevent our minds from drifting in other directions.
Now that's fascinating to me. So you're saying the more points that I get, the more my listener's mind is going to diversify the thoughts exponentially. And I think that's amazing to even think about that. Now, then there's also the challenge of attention span. Can you speak